So we have been building. Let's see, what have we been building? This. We've been building a picture of multiple balls bouncing around on the screen, and what we want to do now is have a way of storing, like, you know, all the balls that get added, and see if we can avoid some of this redundancy here of kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again, but we're, you know, calling different balls here. So in order to do that, we need to talk some about lists. So let's go see. Yeah, let's start here. So in Logo, you remember a list is a group of objects. So let's make a list, and we'll put one. We'll make a list 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we have 3 numbers in this list. We have brackets in front, and, you know, opening brackets in front, closing brackets in back, and a space in between, and that's how we know we have a list. So now what have I done? Well, now I've stored this list of 1, 2, 3 into the variable a list. So if I show a list, there it is. Now we don't see that when we show it. We don't see the opening and closing brackets, but they're there because if we can do something like show ABC, right? Or let's say 5, 6, 7. We can do that, but if we try to do that, doesn't work, right? Because show needs exactly one input. So we know that this, whatever a list is, it's exactly one thing. And if we print out a 1, 2, 3, then it must be a list of 1, 2, 3. Okay. So what does that look like in Code Sculptor? Let's see. So we have in Code Sculptor, we use the equal sign for assignment again, and we write our list like this. Notice we write our list a little bit differently because there are commas in between each item in the list. Okay, we use the same opening brackets and closing brackets, but we put a comma, and typically we'll put a space. But you always need this comma in here in between your items, and we can, you know, put that list together over here and assign it with the equal sign to this variable a list, and then we can print out a list just like we did the show colon a list. We can say print a list, and there it is, 1, 2, 3. Now notice when we print a list in Python and Code Sculptor, we see the brackets, the opening and closing brackets. All right, in Logo, the opening and closing brackets, when we do a show in MicroWorlds, those opening and closing brackets don't show up. But in Code Sculptor and Python, we see the opening and closing brackets, and we see the commas and the spaces. Okay. So now let's see. There are ways that there's a way that we can go through each item in a list one at a time and do stuff with it. So that kind of a structure where you do something over and over again, in general in programming is referred to as a loop. Okay, so this is we're going to use this do list. Let me copy this over to MicroWorlds. And yeah, so we have this list that we've created of 1, 2, 3. So what we're going to do is in the way that doList works is doList needs two inputs. So there's this list here, which I'll talk about in a second, and then there's an instruction list. All right. So the way this works is in the first input to doList is a list that has the name of a variable, and notice there's no quotation mark in front of this, there's no colon, it's just I. Okay, that's the variable that we're going to use. And then the second input is some kind of a list. Okay, so we could have written a list in here directly, like 1, 2, 3, or we can just refer, since we already have a list sitting in this variable name, we can just use that. So we're going to say, so we have a variable and a list and this instruction list, and what happens is we're going to, this is kind of like a repeat in that we're going to do this instruction over and over again. So you know how you can say repeat for show hello, and it'll do that 4 times, right? So it's a similar kind of idea. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do this instruction list once for each item in the list. So we're going to do it once for 1, we're going to do this once for 2, and we're going to do this once for 3. Okay, so what we do is the first time we do this instruction, when we're doing this instruction for 1, we put the value 1 into this variable I. And so in this case, because our instruction is show I, we're just going to show a 1. Okay, and the next time we're going to show a 2, and the next time we're going to show a 3. So let me just show you what that looks like. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. So you could do this like if I had 3 turtles on the screen. 1, 2, 3, and I could cheat and stick it in here. I'll just put in T1, T2. But I could just do T1 and T3 if I wanted to, let's say, and have them go forward I times 10 plus 5 or something. Okay, so you can use this. Oh no, wait. What am I doing? Yeah, let me make this be a list of numbers. Yeah, let me just do it like that. Let me say 50, 100, and 20. And I'll go forward I and wait 1. And I'm just going to do this with just this 1 turtle. So I could loop through turtles, but for this example I think this might be better. Forward I, let's go right 90 and wait 1. Something like that. Oh, and let me, actually I could do a pen down too, just to see what that looks like. Let me scooch this a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to put the pen down and do this. So I have my list of 50, 100, and 20, and I'm going to go forward, whatever this amount is, and right 90, and then wait 1. Okay, let's make it like a wait 5 or something, so it's a little easier to see. Okay, so I did 1, 2, 3 lines, and I went right 90 3 times. The first line I drew was a length of 50 because I said forward I, that's forward 50. The next one I did was right 90. Next thing I did was right 90, and then I did wait 5. Okay, so I did this whole instruction list for 50. Then I do this whole instruction list for I equal 100. Then I do this whole instruction list for I equals 20. Okay? And again, the choice of I is arbitrary. I could have made this be dist or something. We'll do the same thing. Okay? And I could repeat this a bunch of times too. But you get the idea. The to-do list, it just goes a bunch of times. Now it's just redrawing over itself. But it does a bunch of times. It goes through each list and then replaces everything with the I. So if I said do list I with this A list, show I. Let me do that one more time. Stop this. If I do that do list business, and remember A list has 1, 2, 3 in it. It's just going to show 1, 2, 3. So the equivalent thing in in Python is to say for I in a list, I'll stick an extra print in here to make an extra space here. Print I. So first we'll print out the list, and then we'll go through and print each element in the list one at a time. And let's see what that looks like. There it is. So there's the list, and then here's the for I in a list we printed each one at a time. So that's a good bit of the stuff we're going to need, and it's probably not obvious right immediately now why we need that for our stuff with the ball class, but shortly in the next video or the one after that it'll become clear.